come back and see if we can't reboot this thing and get us back up and running properly. Stay tuned. We got a lot more of the Bill Michaels Huddle, and brought to you by our friends at Bud Light, coming up right after this.
This is the Huddle with Bill Michaels on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Network.
Let's just see if it works.
They had cleared him and ready to play at Lambeau. Allen Robinson, I think, also getting back. Let's check in. Bill, Mike,
Yeah.
are you guys there? There you are. What's
we're
going
here.
on?
We'll see what happens, and if this is any better, I don't know if it will be or not. It's the amazing wonders of technology that allow us to do this anywhere. Then again, it's also the technology that screws us up.
I've been told it's too many Christmas lights in that guy across the street.
Well, you guys sound fantastic. You sound fantastic.
Well, let's hope it stays that way. I don't know if it will, but let's hope it stays that way. So we were picking up where we left off, and Mike Clemens alongside. I'm Bill Michaels, and it's the Huddle, and brought to you by our friends at Bud Light. And we are at Jersey's here on South Howell. And Mike, we were talking about Devondre Campbell. We were talking about the middle linebacker play, but also when you look at it, it's the guys up front. It's Kenny Clark. Dean Lowry's having a much better season than what he had last year. I think T.J. Slayton has played some quality snaps this season. Preston Smith is obviously it's like ripples on a pond. When everybody plays well, it seems like everybody plays well. And the fact that you're getting healthy too at the backer position now as well, you're getting guys back, and hopefully Jair can come back and doesn't have any further issues. You're just kind of waiting at this point to see if you're going to get Za'Darius back. How good is this defense when they finally get back and healthy? And a healthy Kevin King gives them good depth too.
Part of the reason you lost that Vikings game is because you were short at outside linebacker and you couldn't get a pass rush on Kirk Cousins, or you were so concerned about containing Delvin Cook in that game that you didn't really go for rushing Cousins as you maybe would have liked to have. At one point you're so depleted you don't have Jonathan Garvin because he has to go on the COVID list. He's about your third or fourth best outside linebacker. You didn't have you didn't have Rashawn Gary because of the hyperextended elbow. Gary makes a tremendous early comeback in that game against the Rams. Has some key plays where he's pressuring Matt Stafford and forces a fumble, and Preston Smith recovers, and it sets up a short field for Aaron Rodgers. You score early and go up on LA. And whenever the Packers can get up about 10 points, maybe even 14 for Joe Barry, then that group feels so much better about going after the quarterback and rolling the dice and taking some gambles. Rasul Douglas, man, that guy did like his third press conference in 2 weeks this afternoon. I mean, he's really turned into this rock star.
If Jair comes back, is he the second starter, or is it Stokes or King?
I think Douglas is the number 2 guy right now.
I would think so.
I think he is. Just as fast as Stokes is, I think the point is that I think you would put Jair Alexander in the star position.
Mm-hmm.
So you'd probably still have Stokes and Douglas on the corners. But you could still spell people with Kevin King. Actually, I need to check and see what, the last time I saw Kevin King also had this hip and knee injury as well. So he's recovered from yet another injury. But that's the way you'd use it. So the point is, knock on wood, Adrian Amos is still just playing lights out. Remember that stop that he made?
Right.
On, was it Henderson, the running back? Coming in there like a linebacker. Just outstanding. Darnell Savage Jr. doing his job, being the robber, roving the field, looking for anything downfield. If you can get Devondre Campbell back, at least to get through this Bears game, you're good. And then when it comes to the running game of the Browns, when you have to face them, when you got to go out to next week to take on Lamar,
right.
and the Baltimore Ravens in that running game, that'll be a whole new situation. But for right now, back surgery, Za'Darius Smith. There's Bill during the bye week. Za'Darius made some sort of a public appearance at a function, and then people just normally say, "Oh, hi, how are you? Good to see you." And this rumor was going around town like wildfire, like they do up in Green Bay.
Right.
That when people said, "So, how are you doing? How are you feeling?" "Oh yeah, I'll be back." "Oh yeah," that was what he was saying because he hasn't done any interviews with the media, and he's been pretty silent in the last 2 or 3 weeks when it comes to social media. So he's not anywhere close to the practice field. But whether or not they could get him still in this month or for the playoffs, now you've really put this big dude, you know.
Yeah.
But still, he'll still need a couple of weeks to get into football shape.
Yeah.
As well. So, all told, I think defense looks pretty good to get through the next 5 games, and then wait and see what happens for the postseason. But the big story today, there was 2 things during the bye week. I kept on saying, I can't believe that there isn't more national attention for the Green Bay Packers. Everyone's talking about, the Packers, they're the Super Bowl team. Did you see what they did to the Rams?
Right.
Is the Randall Cobb story. And so Randall Cobb has 4 catches for 95 yards. The one 50-plus, play that he turned into a 20-yard play into, 54 yards and all that. He scores this touchdown in the red zone. And LaFleur said after that game, or after reviewing the tape actually on Monday, he said, it happened when he scored that touchdown. He says, I can't believe that those guys were banging him around because you could tell he was, walking a little funny.
Right.
But it was announced that he had a groin injury. So then last week, did you see this video of Aaron Rodgers on his birthday walking into a house? I don't know which one it was. Maybe it was his.
Mm-hmm.
And he's walking in with Bakhtiari, and they're having a chat, and they're coming home, throwing down the keys. Okay, we're home. And in the darkness, all of a sudden, there's this boo, this screaming. Did you see this thing?
I didn't see it, no.
Yeah. And it was on an Instagram account. And then Bakhtiari, Rodgers is startled and goes running through the room like, whoa.
Right.
Because he thought he had an intruder in his house.
Right.
It's Randall Cobb, who's probably still got a key from the summer.
Sure.
Letting himself in. Now, so there's that. And then we get to the first day of practice where they let us in to see what's going on. And sure, there's no, what I almost said, there's no Randall Cobb on the field yesterday. The report comes out, and now it's not a groin, it's a core. And I posted that, that's a red flag. It's a core muscle injury, not a groin. They did the same thing with Alan Lazard. They said, he had he's going up for that ball. I think it was against the Saints. He kind of torqued his body, and he had a groin pull or something. And then later, it's a core muscle thing, and they got to go in there and sew it back together.
Right. That's usually a groin that's torn. A torn lower abdominal type of core muscle in the groin area. And those hurt.
Well, it cost Lazard 7 weeks.
Yeah.
So they said core injury. And then today, the press conference almost ended after just about 7 or 8 questions or so. And then Tom Silverstein said, well, but Coach, what about Randall Cobb? I mean, this core muscle thing. Do you expect him to be out a while? Because you would just assume, he ain't going to be playing Sunday night against the Bears.
Right.
And LaFleur comes out and says, it's a significant injury. And he's done a great job for it this year. And it's just a darn shame.
Right. That sounds like a season ender.
Well, you've gone through this whole thing where Aaron Rodgers goes back and forth with the team from February right up until the weekend of training camp about whether or not he's coming back. And then when he sort of, within the last couple of weeks before camp starts, he goes, all right, I'll come back on one of the stipulations is we bring back Randall Cobb. Mm-hmm. So the weekend of the camp starts, the Packers give up a 6th-round pick to the Texans, bring Cobb back in, and he kind of watches Amari Rodgers, who ran through all the plays in the spring. These guys are family friends because Amari's dad coached Cobb at Kentucky, T.
Right.
Martin. And then you get to week 10 or and further on, and Cobb now is a part of the offense. I mean, he's really come on. And Marquez Valdes-Scantling still not like 100% after missing 4 games with that hamstring injury. So, just this is really tough for Aaron Rodgers.
Right.
I mean, he brought back Cobb on a personal level to get them to the next place. And now Cobb has to have this surgery, which core surgery, that's 6 weeks, right? 6 weeks, 7 weeks?
Right.
Who knows? And you got 5 regular season games left to play. That's the news. Today, Rob Domofsky, then late this afternoon, confirming he had the surgery last week. Randall Cobb has had surgery for the core muscle injury, and
you
that's
would
his
assume,
status.
you would assume when they say, boy, he's really worked hard and done this. That's almost like one of those season endings. It's an
obituary.
It's what it is. Yeah. It's disappointing But when you start to look at the numbers that he was putting up, specifically on third down, I think they had mentioned he was like 8 of 10 conversions on third down. When Aaron Rodgers tends to scramble, he's been looked to more often than not. He's been that guy, that sure route runner, that sure-handed guy that Rodgers can depend on. What does this do? Who now becomes that guy?
Well, that's a good question. Because the thing is, after Devontae Adams, no one else can read Aaron Rodgers' mind at the line of scrimmage like Randall Cobb can, because of all the years and all the examples. And that, if the safety line's up here and the corner's over here and the linebacker's shooting over there, then that means I'm going to change my route here at the line. You know what route I'm going to change,
Right?
Because I'm doing this for you. This is what you've told me.
Right.
If this is what we see to change to, all those kinds of things. These guys, they don't even have to wink. They don't have to do hand signals. They just look at it. They look at each other like, "Do you see this?" Yeah. And so that's the kind of thing when you're playing a tough Baltimore team, or you're trying to clinch or you're trying to get home field advantage, be the number one seed. Rodgers is going to count on Cobb if they're double teaming Devontae over there on the other side. Who are they going to go to? All right. So if it's after Devontae Adams, who are you going to use in that slot? It ain't going to be Amari Rodgers, even though he's built like Cobb.
Right.
Shorter, quicker, younger, etc. Even though he ran all those jet sweeps, in the off season. I tell you, some of the coaches have come right out in just the last 2 weeks and said, yeah, he's still got a lot to develop.
Right.
So,
yeah, I heard that. And then that to me is always the red flag of, yeah, he's got good talent, but he doesn't get it yet.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, he looked great to us, just to the citizens, watching him, learning the playbook. He's a bright kid. But the other thing is, when Cobb came in, it's like, well, all right, we brought him here for a reason. Rodgers wants him in. So Cobb took all those snaps in the games.
Mm-hmm.
So, if Randall Cobb had not been here, then the plan would have been, let's see what Amari Rodgers can do. Let's get him more snaps and games on the offense, not just with special teams returning kicks. And you would think that by November, the rookie would be coming along and then ready for prime time and perhaps ready for the postseason. Whatever, that ain't going to happen. But Nathaniel Hackett said this afternoon, he goes, hey, yeah, I've been so impressed. He says, I heard about Randall Cobb for 2 years from Aaron Rodgers. And when he came in, you thought, wow, really, can he do that? He said, then you watch him go out there and practice and just, lights out some of the turns that he made. And then, of course, in the games, like the plays he made against the Rams. But, Hackett is here to remind you, hey, when we first got here, when LaFleur and I first got here 2 years ago, we lost Devontae Adams for 4 games with that turf toe.
Right.
Guys like off the street, like Alan Lazard stepped up,
Mm-hmm.
and Equanimeous St. Brown. Remember that big catch he had against the Patriots when we were out in New England?
Yeah.
These kinds of plays, that was huge. So, his point, I think what they're going to do is Rodgers has been talking up EQ, Equanimeous St. Brown. And I think Hackett even leaned that way today in his comments. And even though he's 6'4" and not your typical slot receiver, I think that's the guy that they might think that they could get some of those routes out of.
I always thought he would be a good slot receiver. Just in the time I watched him first come into camp, a big, long arms, long wingspan, and I saw him go across the middle a few times.
Well, and the key too is, Jason Vrabel, his receivers coach, once said, the thing about Equanimeous, he's quiet. And even LaFleur, after a big play that Equanimeous said had a couple of weeks ago, he said, yeah, that's the first time I've seen emotion out of him in the 2 or 3 years we've been here.
Yeah.
He's a very dry guy, so he's a kind of a tough read personality-wise. But, he's out of Notre Dame, and he's smart.
Yeah.
And what the receivers coaches will tell you is that his routes are precise. And what does Aaron Rodgers want?
That's what he wants.
He wants precise routes. And that will win him that slot position or more of those snaps at wide receiver over those other guys.
Would Lazard be more suited for that slot role?
He's had far more experience because
Right.
EQ has missed so much time with injuries on and off the last couple of years. But Lazard, to me, has just been – I'm surprised that they haven't gone to him more often. And they have tried, but it seems like those are the plays where Rodgers is just a little off, overthrows him. I mean, there's been a number of times that they've tried to hit Lazard deep, and they just it's they take a shot
Mhm.
to try and get those safeties to back up to help out Aaron Jones in the running game and Dillon, that kind of thing.
Right.
But they just haven't connected. To me, I think Alan Lazard's biggest play was not from Aaron Rodgers, but Jordan Love, the touchdown down against the Chiefs.
Yeah. Let's do this. We're going to step away, take a quick break. We'll come back. Mike Clemens alongside. I'm Bill Michaels. It's the Bill Michaels Huddle, brought to you by our friends at Bud Light, the official beer sponsor of the Bill Michaels Sports Talk Network. And we're broadcasting live. We're at Jersey's. We're on South Howell Avenue, just north of General Mitchell International Airport here in Milwaukee. So if you want to, if you're in the area, come on by. Terrific. There's plenty of room actually inside this place. We'll have the games on a little bit later. Right now, Wisconsin's volleyball team, the women's volleyball team, is playing up on the tube as well. You got some college hoops. You're going to have some football later on tonight, some NFL. You got a big one coming up in Minnesota. They're hosting the Pittsburgh Steelers. Rumor is that if by chance the Vikings lose tonight, that this could be it for Mike Zimmer. That when we had Paul Charchian on earlier today, he thought that the pressure would become so tremendous on Ziggy Wilf that they might feel compelled to let Mike Zimmer go before tomorrow. So a big game coming up tonight in Minneapolis. Stay tuned. We got a lot more of the Bill Michaels Huddle coming up next.
This is the Huddle with Bill Michaels on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 5 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 4 minutes.
Mike 2, check 1, 2, 3. Mike 2, check 1, 2, 3. Mike 2, check 1, 2, 3. Test check 1, 2, 3. Test check 1, 2, 3. Test check 1, 2, 3.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Michaels will resume in 1 minute.
Mic 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Sounds good in the ears. Test check 1, 2, 3. Test check 1, 2, 3. Test check 1, 2, 3. Okay. Test check 1, 2, 3.
Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Test check 1, 2, 3.
Okay, let's see if we get it now. Check, check, 1, 2, check, 1, 2, check, check, 1, 2.
Bumpers.
He's had two excellent games back to back with that same kind of operation throughout the week. So it's not something that I really worry about too much. I got a lot of stuff to worry about myself, and he's been doing it a really long time. And yeah, I mean, it's just muscle memory. It's easier for some guys. I'm sure it may not work for a guy over whatever other team, but it's obviously proven that he's able to lock in. And Aaron's ability to, like I said, lock in is different than other guys.
Welcome back to the program. That is the words of Devontae Adams as, well, you know, he is discussing Aaron Rodgers and the fact that Aaron Rodgers has not practiced now coming into this contest coming up on Sunday night. It'll be 6 weeks when you start to add it all up. You look after that game in which they beat Arizona, then the following week he tested positive, and since then,
I haven't practiced in 30 years.
yeah, right?
Yeah.
You pick it up like that.
But I can, if they need an emergency quarterback.
Still wing it? Just checking. Just checking. Mike Clemens, the voice that you hear. We are broadcasting live. We're in Jersey's. We're on South Howell Avenue. That's where you can find us just north of General Mitchell International Airport. If you want to come by and say hello, feel free to do so. And hopefully the sound on the Bud Light live stream is doing a little bit better as well.
You know the old thing about use it or lose it?
Yes.
You know, you would go to some of these games and you'd see these Hall of Fame quarterbacks come back in their 50s or 60s or something.
Uh-huh.
And then they make them like throw out a ball or something like a first pitch.
Right.
And it's just like this total rubber arm.
Yeah.
And you say, and maybe if you talk, it's like, what happened? You used to throw the ball 65 yards. What happened? I haven't thrown a ball in 20 years. I was paid to do that. I haven't
picked
my
one up
grandsons, I've got granddaughters, haven't picked it up. And I thought, oh, well, that's never going to happen to me. Because I played some high school quarterback. I was not big enough to play at Whitewater or any college anywhere in America. But then something happened, man, just the last couple of years, where last year I was in a snowball fight and I threw it, and it looked like a left-handed throw. Like, what happened? What happened?
Like you would pitch for softball for the Girl Scouts.
And I got to start going around the neighborhood and trying to, scare up some of my neighbors' sons and say, would you play some catch with me? I've lost my arm, man. You gotta keep it going there.
Yeah, well, if they're, you know what? I don't think I would lose my ability to talk if I suddenly, because I get paid to do it, but I don't think I'd lose my ability to talk. I'm always going to be full of crap. So,
well, thank you very much.
There you go. Have the feel. Let's go to the offensive side. You heard Devontae Adams there talking about the fact that Aaron Rodgers has not been practicing. He talked about muscle memory and being able to come back and get it. The fact that he's played well. He has played well. You got to look at the individual games. You can't just look at the statistics and say, well, compared to last year, he's not playing nearly as well, because he is playing well. He's just not. It's not the same game. The biggest difference between last year and this year, I think, between the 20s, it's good. The red zone, the gold zone, as they call it, has been ineffective. Devontae Adams talked about it. Nathaniel Hackett's talked about it. Aaron Rodgers has mentioned it. I wonder what they're going to come up with out of self-scouting this past week to make because that's the only difference between last year's team and this year's team.
You're exactly right. That's what the offensive coordinator, Nathaniel Hackett, said last week going into their period of self-scouting. Look at the teams, and at the top of his list, one of his biggest problems, red zone. Mm-hmm. Why can't we come up with a play from the 4-yard line on second down and get it in?
Right.
And why do we seem to get in front of ourselves? We seem to run all over ourselves. And And so we'll be interested to see if they try and go back to some sort of misdirection, if there's some way that they can find better mismatches at that line of scrimmage. They've got a great offensive line, even though some of them are third stringers and rookies that have gotten them through these sustained drives. But it gets tough down there, and when the defense brings in 8 men and all big guys and all that, it gets to be a different dynamic in the game, and you got a short field. Those are some of the challenges. But no question, that was at the top of Nathaniel Hackett's to-do list is we got to come up with another dozen or more surefire plays that are going to work in the red zone against any defense because our numbers are way down from that. I think this big thing about, Aaron Rodgers not practicing, I'm not worried about Aaron Rodgers. I'm worried about if you're Alan Lazard, okay?
Yeah.
You haven't played with this guy for 7 or 8 years.
Right.
It's been hit or miss for the last couple of years. And sure, you got plenty of reps during warm-ups, etc., with Rodgers, so you know what that pass looks like. But wouldn't you like to see it just once on Wednesday or Thursday, or especially on Friday? At 100% run through in shorts and helmets. It's Royce Newman at right guard having to adjust to Jordan Love's cadence, and he's trying to do his best Aaron Rodgers impression, I assume. Or now this week it's Ben Kurt, who's taken all of the snaps. And we talked to Love back in November, and I think we talked about this on the Bill Michaels show about, Jordan Love. Here's his experience in the NFL. Okay, I'm a number 1 pick, but they got Tim Boyle. All right, I come into a year that's got COVID, so we don't have any off season. I don't get to take any snaps in the spring.
Yeah.
Then we get into camp, and I'm pretty much just watching. Okay, I'm
Right.
the third string quarterback. We had 4 arms and all that. I do some drills. I'm watching. I'm learning the plays. And then when we get into the regular season, Tim Boyle's over there, and if it was this week, he'll be running the scout team for the Bears. And Rodgers is getting all of the snaps. They don't let second and third stringers take snaps because here we are now in December, and these guys hurt from head to toe, even coming back from bye week.
Right.
And these players are saying, okay, coach, we'll give you 40, 50 snaps, between Wednesday and Thursday for the 20 new plays that you want to put in on the menu specifically to go against the Chicago defense. But after that, man, we don't want to do any more snaps.
Yeah.
We want to get back into the training room. We want to rest and all that. We want to be ready for Sunday. So that's why you're so limited to leaving those snaps for the first string quarterback so that he has a chance to rehearse that. Well, this affects the whole team then, just in terms of cadence, rhythm, timing, the huddle.
Yeah.
How the play comes off of the guy's mouth and everything.
Just the rhythm of getting the play, huddle, line of scrimmage, playoff.
This
Just that rhythm.
offense, since Rodgers has had to do this practice only thing since he, fractured his toe on his week off at COVID, working out somehow. He had dropped a dumbbell or something.
Yeah.
He wouldn't tell us exactly how that happened, but that's when it happened, when he was home alone during his quarantine. It's like a bye week for the offense every week.
Yeah.
I haven't played with my quarterback since the last game.
Right. Yeah, it's I don't know what the effect is, and my assumption is that as time goes on, as Rodgers stated, the last week and a half has done really, really well for the toe. He talked about it not, he can't imagine it hurting, no matter what he plays like this week, that it's going to hurt as bad as it did when it first happened. So, and they numb it up on game day, but short of the fact that
something really dumb he did.
What's that?
You remember when he was on the McAfee show and he talked about the toe and yes, it's fractured and blah, blah, blah. And then he came back and did a press conference, his usual press conference in Green Bay, right? And then he said, all right, you guys want to see? You don't believe me? Okay, here. And he put his bare foot up, right?
Right.
He telegraphed to everybody, oh, it's the left foot.
Right. Oh, I know.
We didn't know what foot it was.
Right.
He let everybody know.
No, I know.
Yeah. So, if you're one of those Bears defensive linemen and you get a chance to stomp on the left foot,
right
there you go.
Well, that's the other thing. Let's do this. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about that because that seems to be all that is good. To me, it was kind of a non-issue coming into the week, and as momentum has grown, it has been crescendoing to Sunday over the
Roquan Smith,
over yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Was that your foot?
Right?
Is that the bad one?
Over the I own you. Let's do this.
I'm so sorry.
We'll take a break. We'll be back right after this.
This is the Huddle with Bill Michaels on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes.
Check, check, check. 1 2 1 2 1 2. Check 1 2. Check, check, check. 1 2 1 2. Check, check, check. 1 2 1 2. Check, check, check. 1 2 1 2 1 2. I know, right? Yeah, we're still on. We're at a commercial break.
Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes.
Check, 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 check. Check, check.
Bill
Check,
Michaels
check.
will
1 2
resume
1 2 1 2.
in 1 minute.
Check 1 2. Check, check, check.
Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Well, they got some really good players on this defense, and it's not just Khalil Mack. Obviously, he is a unique talent. He's a tough guy to replace, but I think Gibson's done a heck of a job. Robert Quinn, a lot off the edge. You got Preserving there now that's played in this league for a long time. Inside and Goldman and Nichols. I mean, they've got a lot of good players, so it's definitely not an easy task.
Those are the words of Matt LaFleur. Welcome back. It is the Bill Michaels Huddle, and we're brought to you by our good friends at Bud Light, the official beer sponsor of the Bill Michaels Sports Talk Network. We're at Jersey's on South Howell Avenue, and you can find us. It's just north of the General Mitchell International Airport, a couple blocks north. So if you're out and about and in the area, swing on by. They got some specials going on here tonight for Bud Light. They're going to have some sports, obviously, on the TV. Got to the Wisconsin Wisconsin Badger women's not basketball, but volleyball team up again on UCLA, so kudos to them. As did they just win it? They did. Wisconsin has won.
Oh, how about that?
So fantastic, storming the floor as they continue on in the NCAA tournament. That's excellent stuff. We'll get some more coming up tonight. When it comes to football, so you got the Steelers. They're on the road in Minneapolis to take on the Minnesota Vikings. That game's coming up tonight. You can watch that here as well if you want to come by. Mike Clemens alongside.
Matt LaFleur there, that clip you played.
Yes.
He's saying, somebody said, is this really the Bears defense of the last couple of years with Khalil Mack now out for the year with foot surgery? And he goes, oh, yeah, they're, and he's looking down at a depth chart there at the podium.
Right.
Because Danny Trevathan, he's on IR. Akeem Hicks is this tremendous defensive lineman who you saw in the first matchup between these two teams courageously get out there in the field and play with a groin injury. Remember, he made one of those stops, and then you could see him hobbling off to the sideline at Soldier Field, holding that, playing through that groin injury. He's had an ankle now since November 8th. He hasn't played a snap since November 8th. And then, so this week as well, it's Green Bay week, man. It's Packers week. Will Akeem try and get up for this one? And,
they've been lucky in not facing Akeem Hicks. He wasn't there last year.
Right.
He didn't play him again last year.
Which
he's been banged up a lot.
It starts to point to the whole Ryan Pace, Matt Nagy era in Chicago. And the fact is, did they miss the window of that defense?
Yes, they
spent $90 million plus to bring in Mack from the Raiders. Everybody in Wisconsin was like, "Oh, that's it. The Bears are going to the Super Bowl because they got Khalil Mack. If we got them, we'd be going to the Super Bowl." Really?
Yeah, his first year was tremendous.
It was.
It was fantastic.
Even
Since
though
then,
Rodgers beat him in that opener. Remember, he beat him in that opener. He
played on the broken knee.
He suffered that fracture. That bone just below the kneecap. Came out, out of the tunnel in the second half, and threw the 3 touchdowns. One, to Randall Cobb to make the difference. But Hicks is out. Marsh is questionable for the game. Robert Quinn, though, that's been an interesting question as to how the Bears. Robert Quinn was, good when he was in LA, but he's even better in Chicago. Mm-hmm. And so, he's a force, and he's the guy that Rodgers will be looking for, pre-snap and where he lines up. And then there's Ogletree, Bruce Irvin. They brought in the veteran from the Seahawks. I got to look up how old Bruce is these days. 32, 33, maybe older than that.
Yeah.
He's kind of a wild and crazy guy, on and off the field. And I don't know how much is left in his tank, but when they started losing Mack and some of these other guys, they had to bring him in. And then they've got Travis Gibson at strong side linebacker. He's questionable for the game as well. So this Bears defense is, we talked about all the Green Bay's injuries this year, but the Bears are far worse.
Yeah, the Bears are really banged up, and which is one, it bodes well for the Packers' run game. And I said this today. If the Packers get up on and not that it's going to be frigid temperatures, because it's not going to be bad at Lambeau Field.
It's warming up this week after the cold spell.
But it'll feel cold if they get up by a couple of scores, and that defense can't stop A.J. Dillon. They can't stop Aaron Jones. Rodgers is playing well. The toe's feeling better. The defense is starting to come back, that type of thing. I know the Packers' record coming out of a bye recently is not good. But I can't figure out a way the Packers lose this game short of Rodgers going down with injury or something. But that goes back to my question, Mike, and you brought it up when you discuss the I own you comment and him showing the world, oh, by the way, it's my left foot, my left little toe. Do we have any concern about a player in that locker room taking offense to Rodgers and stomping on the toe? Oh, by accident.
From Chicago?
Yeah.
It was the same team that gave him his first broken collarbone, man.
That was Shea McClellan, and that was years ago, though. That was a legitimate hit.
Yeah.
I'm talking about somebody getting up and going, oh, my bad, the walk by you and step on your toe type of thing.
Right. I'm going to say mob bosses in Chicago will be involved. No, I don't.
Hey, go after the toe.
No, most of the time these guys just want to play a good, clean game, and they'll help pick a quarterback up, that they respect him. Nobody wants to be the bad guy or, be said, well, you ended another possible MVP season for Aaron Rodgers. I don't know if the guys play that way. I think at some point, even Anthony Barr and and Aaron Rodgers buried the hatchet, even though Barr picked him up and drilled him into the turf.
He gave him the extra oomph.
At the new stadium when he stepped outside.
Yeah.
That was an uncalled for hit.
Mhm.
Didn't have to go down that way. I don't know. Trevathan is the guy, but he's on IR right now. That's the guy who's drilled Devontae Adams in the head and sent Devontae to the hospital for a night.
Yeah. Yeah, I just that seems the fans want him to do it. The fans, and I can't. This is what I can't get over, is I'm listening to Chicago radio, and the fans want to see Rodgers in a pine box. It's just it's funny because a friend of mine who lives in Chicago, when it first happened, he's like, "Yeah, screw Nagy, Rodgers and Favre, they've owned him. They deserve what they get. To hell with them." And this week, it's like, "Screw that SOB Rodgers. I hope somebody did." I'm like, "What happened? What happened to you cheering your team because you suck so bad? Get rid of Ryan Pace, blow out Matt Nagy, stick with Justin Fields, rebuild, and look at it in an honest fashion to screw this guy. To hell with him. You got to hurt him. You know what I mean? It's things have changed."
I've told you the story. The meanest thing I've ever seen of all the stadiums I've been to was Philadelphia. Where at one point they used to throw batteries on the field with players and all that kind of thing. Was Packers were playing at Soldier Field. I was down on the field as the game was wrapping up, and the final gun, the Packers walk off, and Brett Favre has led the team to a win. This was early 2006, maybe last regular season game of the year, and we're trotting off the field, and there's a woman. There's a woman, not a guy. There's a woman with a little yellow sign with black paint that says "Die Favre Die," and she's standing over the tunnel there that the visitors are going to walk through. And I'm walking behind Favre like, is he going to see this?
Right.
Because what I couldn't believe was she's holding the sign up a week after Reggie White had died.
Yeah.
Like, is she that stupid?
Yeah.
Is she that insensitive?
Uh-huh.
Die Favre Die
Yeah.
a week after he had to bury his friend and teammate Reggie White.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, no, I wouldn't put it past one of the Bears.
Okay.
To get an old stop there on the left foot on 12.
1 hour down, another hour yet to go. We are broadcasting live. We are at Jersey's South Howell Avenue in Milwaukee, just north of General Mitchell International Airport. Swing on by. We're brought to you by our friends at Bud Light. They are the official beer sponsor of the Bill Michaels Sports Talk Network. We have got more. Another hour yet to go. And the NFL picks. So look around the NFL. Coming up in just a few. Stay tuned. We'll be back right after this.
This is a Wisconsin Sports Zone update.
Well, Packers are getting ready for a visit from the Bears on Sunday. They're doing it without wide receiver Will Cobb. Coach Matt LaFleur said today that Cobb's core muscle injury that he suffered against L.A. the last time out is significant and will keep him out a while. As for who could possibly replace him in the slot,
It's really everybody, and that can change on a weekly basis. But we'll use Allen in there a little bit. We'll use EQ's been playing really well, as of late, and not only on offense but on special teams as well. And then we'll continue to move Devontae around and put him in there a little bit.
LaFleur says they could also see rookie Amari Rodgers get an opportunity there. Quarterback Aaron Rodgers did not practice today due to a toe injury, but is expected to play. Quarterback Kevin King and wide receiver Malik Taylor both took part on a full-time basis after missing time with injuries of late. All-pro cornerback Jair Alexander remains on injury reserve, but was a limited participant again as he returns from a shoulder injury suffered in Week 4. Unlikely he plays Sunday against Chicago. Meanwhile, Wisconsin getting get back to work soon, start preparing for their bowl game. They're going to face Arizona State in the Las Vegas Bowl on December 30th.
Want to save even more at Fleet Farm? Well, now you can with Fleet Rewards. It's free to sign up, and there's no credit card required. Using Fleet Rewards is easy. Earn points every time you shop. Plus, get exclusive member offers, birthday and anniversary perks, free tire rotations, and more. Download the Fleet Farm app or create an account at fleetfarm.com/rewards to start earning points today. Fleet Farm, proudly serving the Midwest since 1955.
The Wisconsin basketball team has won 6 straight after they came back from a 22-point deficit to beat Indiana last night, left them 1-0 in Big Ten play, 8-1 overall in the season. They're going to be at Ohio State on Saturday, and the Bucks made their way to Houston today. It's where they're going to take on the Rockets tomorrow. With this Wisconsin Sports Zone Network update, I'm Zach Howell.
Are you ready for some football? He talks green and gold. This is the Huddle with Bill Michaels.
Hour number 2 of the Huddle, and we are brought to you by our friends at Bud Light, the official beer sponsor of the Bill Michaels Sports Talk Network. Joining us here tonight, our good buddy Mike Clemens, NFL Sirius Radio, and our Green and Gold Insider. And a lot going on in Minneapolis, our town north and west. Tonight they're hosting the Pittsburgh Steelers. We'll talk more about that coming up. But whether or not they win or lose could depend on whether or not their head coach is even there tomorrow. I still think that he will be there, but the pressure will be mounting, and eventually Mike Zimmer will be jettisoned. But we'll wait and see. But if they get a win tonight, then they still have a little breath of hope. And therefore, we'll have to wait and see what happens when it comes to the Minnesota Vikings. Also, got to mention, producing the show out in Madison, our good buddy Evo Thorson is out there. And Evo jumped in when we had some technical issues early on in this contest between Mike and I. So we appreciate that as well. So, Mike, we talked about Rodgers, talked about the toe, talked about the Bears, a little bit of a oomph effort into this game. But I think first 7 minutes of this game are going to determine this game as to whether or not the Packers are going to blow them out, the Bears are going to fold their tent, they're going to go home, or they're going to fight like hell to do something. But they're getting a little bit of an oomph to get Justin Fields back, but they really don't have much behind him. They've got a banged-up Andy Dalton who's not able to play. They've got Nick Foles, who they have zero faith in at this point, I would assume. And Justin Fields going with broken ribs. And Justin Fields, which I found amazing, says inside the building, he's getting conflicting advice. Some guys are like, "Hey, dude, man, we love the fact that you're gutting it out, but hey, wink and a nod, man, you want to watch those ribs. You want to, not get busted up anymore and take a shot at long-term problems."
I was surprised when Nagy came out yesterday and said, "Yeah, our starter is going to be Justin Fields," and then Fields says, "Yeah, I'm ready to play. Sure, there'll be some pain. Heck, I've got 3 cracked ribs." And then he said that
right
in his press conference. Oh, okay. Great. Part of the problem is Andy Dalton really stunk it up the other day. Twice. Of all the games I watched from around the league, at the start of the Packers-Rams game, Green Bay is driving down the field, and then Rodgers gets into the red zone, and he really needs a third down. He sends Devontae Adams over the middle on a little slant, right? And they've got a field camera from the end zone, and Rodgers takes the ball, throws through over the center and guard, and there's Devontae putting his hands up. At the last second is the best defensive lineman in the National Football League, Aaron Donald. He puts both his right and left paws up in the air, and they almost become goalposts for Rodgers' little pass. I don't know how he does this, but he threads the guy's arms as they're rising, as the ball's already almost left his hand,
right,
and puts right through. I can't tell you how many interceptions I saw over the weekend. It was about 6, quite frankly.
Balls tipped to the line of scrimmage, into the air, yeah.
And twice the Cardinals did it to Andy Dalton. He's got a guy open. He's got a little bit of protection. There's some rhythm. There's some timing. Ball's out, and some 6'5" dude gets his paw up there. Ball goes up in the air. Somebody gets a cheap interception, and the Cardinals get a short field again, and either kick a field goal or get a touchdown, and they put it to the Bears. I mean, that's how they lost that game, and that's just something that is underappreciated. How Rodgers is not just a quarterback; he's a point guard in basketball, and he's got those sidearm passes. He'll get that ball past those guys' hands. He throws 18, 20 touchdowns at this point in the season, and only has a couple of picks. And I mean, there's so many ways that he, besides being careful of who he decides to make the throws to, but just how he delivers the football and make sure it gets there on point as opposed to being deflected like that.
The one thing with Andy Dalton that I have heard is he will look a receiver, look off, but they always know when he looks back, that's where he's going. They said he can read his eyes. That's how they can block. Because Rodgers will look away, and then he like you said, he can go sidearm. But he can almost look away and throw the pass.
Well, he did one in about 5 years ago in training camp that was just goofing around.
Yeah.
I mean, he looked at the 1,500 people in the stands to his left and threw a ball completely to his right to Geronimo Allison, that who just knew that always wait for the ball to come. But I mean, he's looking at the left sideline and throws a ball that lands just inside the right sideline, 45 yards downfield, and like a dart.
If you don't,
Matthew Stafford can do that though too, because I've seen that some of that NFL film stuff where Matthew will do that in a game. He'll look off a guy, he'll look to his right and deliver a ball off to his left on a left slant like that, completely on a look away pass, and get a completion, get a first down.
If you don't look at your target consistently, guys can't time you. But if you're staring down a receiver, and as you go back, Brian Noble used to tell me that it was guys that he loved that because they looked at the receiver.
Right. Well, the point
and they were able to tell you.
What you're trying to do is you're trying to get the safety to move over. You're trying to get the safety to move over, because if you're going to throw to a guy on your right hash, or maybe in the right numbers, the yardage numbers, and that safety is playing deep, or they got two deep safeties. These guys are fast in the league that if the ball is going to travel 35 yards, that gives them just enough time to move and adjust and go up there and try and tip the ball, or perhaps get a pick. So you're trying to convince the safety the ball's going to the left. No, actually, I'm going to throw it over here to the right, and just to buy yourself another 10 yards, before that safety can get into the window area and pick up the ball like that. But anyway, yeah, I couldn't believe with the games that I saw how many of these quarterbacks from around the league. There's all these little things watching these other games in their entirety in real time that you realize it's so much that Rodgers does, the way he sets the. The other thing I think that LaFleur has gotten Rodgers to do, though, is to pick up the tempo. Do you remember how long Rodgers would take and burn up every second on the play clock and be making adjustments and, constantly trying to get the, team to jump off sides and all that? Rodgers gets the ball off quicker. And they're not doing that hurry up offense where they sprint out of the huddle and up to the line of scrimmage, as I thought they would, because that's what they were showing when LaFleur first got to Green Bay, at least in practice. But he just seems to understand that he's got to get the ball off quicker to get some sort of a tempo going.
It is the one thing I have noticed is they're not burning up the timeouts because of the clock. I mean, it still happens, but not as consistently, where they're sitting at the end of a game with no timeouts left because they had 3 instances in which the clock was about to strike 0. And he's not snapping the ball with 1 second on the clock anymore. He's snapping the ball with 3 and 4 and just a little bit different than what we've become accustomed to seeing. And the other thing, we always talked that one season where we said, well, he's hanging on to the ball. He's not hanging on to the ball.
He's not hanging on the ball. And,
no.
And the other thing is, if he gets down to 2 or 3 seconds left on the play clock, there's shifting that's going on that makes sense.
Yeah.
There's adjustments that are going on.
He's looking for something
that makes sense.
Yeah.
He also might have a pretty smart group of wide receivers too. I mean, that's a pretty bright bunch that's out there.
That's the question as to whether or not when they lose Randall Cobb, what that does to that smarts dynamic, so to speak.
Your overall football IQ drops a lot.
Right.
Randall Cobb being out. In case folks are just joining us, ESPN's Rob Domofsky reporting, in fact, Randall Cobb had surgery last week for a core injury that he suffered on catching that touchdown just before the half in the win over the Rams. Core surgery, what's that, 6 weeks, 7 weeks, Bill, before you can think of getting a guy back on a football field after that?
You may get him back if it's relatively minor. You may get him back for the first game of the postseason.
Yeah. And that's give or take if you've got a bye, right, during the wild card week. or whatever the
But
situation.
his regular season's pretty much shot.
Oh
The
yeah,
rest of it's pretty much
can't
gone.
be back in 5 weeks.
No. When we come back after the next break, we'll talk more about this MVP chase. But I want to get into the special teams. Mo Drayton, and I keep saying it to everybody that'll listen. I love the enthusiasm. I love the rah rah. I love the pounding on the table. We'll get it done. The results haven't been there. What has he said? Anything? We heard anything out of these guys to say, hey, we analyzed some things, we figured it out?
You're asking?
Yeah.
All right. Wait,
I'm asking, have you heard anything that says they figured this out? That they think they have it.
All I can tell you is that last week when I went over the Rams game twice you got ground level shots of the Wolfels guy in the snap.
Yeah.
It was perfect.
Right.
It was spot on.
And the one he missed.
Yeah, and the one that he missed too.
I just think the wind got it. It was a windy
That's
day.
right. So we can't answer, at least based on that game, because the wind was crazy.
Right.
It was crazy. It was 30 miles an hour. I took a picture and posted it on my Twitter account about how the wind was changing so much that it took one of those great big giant American flags they have up by the scoreboard and wrapped the flag all the way around the pole.
Yeah, and I did see that, and I don't know what to make of Mason versus the wind versus the process. I just think that they need very little wind on Sunday night. Get him with a couple of PATs, 2-3 PATs, splits the uprights, and maybe 2 field goals, no problem. And maybe you get out of that game and go, okay, we can breathe. You can breathe a little bit, maybe relax. Because each game and each kick that goes through the uprights, I think he gets more and more comfortable. I don't know. The question is, well, is it in his head? I don't know if it is. It certainly seemed like maybe it was. But one of the things that was told to me was that the more the process is screwed up, the more often it is, you think about the process more rather than just doing what you do. Just leg swing, kick. You do the same thing. You do the same thing because you're hesitating, you're stepping, you're doing things different, and all of a sudden your muscle memory goes.
There's another veteran kicker in the NFL that's had the same situation where the team said, we're done with this long snapper, get rid of him because they're having troubles with him, particularly on punts. They brought in a new long snapper, and this surefire veteran missed his next 3 field goals.
Yeah.
It's Matt Prater for the Cardinals.
Right.
The leading team in the NFC. So Prater, could talk to Mason Crosby about, I feel you, brother.
Right. Well, they had changes with Robbie Gould too. They down in Chicago, they changed up the holder. They wanted to change punters and such, and they did that a couple of times. Next thing you know, Gould's washed up, get him out of here, and he's been nothing but Gould in for San Francisco.
Still working for San Francisco.
Yeah, he's been fantastic. Let's do this. We're going to step away, take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about Aaron Rodgers, but more so the MVP race, because it's starting to get recognition now, whether it's going to be Kyler Murray, Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers. Is there another name that could possibly be in the mix? Stay tuned. We are broadcasting live. We're at Jersey's on South Howell Avenue, and just north of the airport, as a matter of fact, here in Milwaukee. Swing on by. We are brought to you by our friends at Bud Light, the official beer sponsor of the Bill Michaels Sports Talk Network. We've got more after this.
This is the Huddle with Bill Michaels on the Wisconsin Sport Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
You got to hit it, bang it, rock it, put it in the pocket.
What do you think of what Randall gave you so far this season, and what do you have to do to kind of make up, without having him here with that receiving core?
I mean, what a great guy. I mean, the trust that he and Aaron have built is awesome. Allen and EQ, they're gonna, they've already done it. They've already been there too, and it was just a bonus to have that connection come back and be a leader in that room and give us a lot. So those guys are going to have to step up, and they already have. They've already shown it, and I think that they've gotten better just having Randall in the room.
Welcome back to the program. Bill Michaels Show on the air. We are broadcasting live. We are in Jersey's. That's where you can find us. And swing on by South Howell Avenue, Milwaukee, is where you can track us down. Mike Clemens alongside. I'm Bill Michaels. And Jake says, Mike, never in my life have I focused so much on the snap, the hold, the kick. It's in my head. And as a fan, I can't imagine it not being in Crosby's head. It's a mental thing, in my opinion. Hopefully, the good stretch will turn that around. There you go. People are watching the snap, the hold, the placement, the kick.
I got to think the Matt LaFleur's sick and tired of having to look at this too.
Right? Like I said, I give Mo Drayton all the props in the world.
Special teams coordinator.
Yeah.
Guy's actually been with Green Bay a couple of years. Was an assistant to Sean Menenga, and they moved on from Sean last year. Do you remember that clip I played when Pete Doherty asked Sean about, hey, this thing about onside kicks now, and there's this seems to be this gap in the rules about if you straddle the sideline, 1 foot's out of bounds, 1 foot's in bounds, and you're trying to recover the ball, will that be counted as the ball going out of bounds, or will you have possession of it? And he said, yeah, I know they changed that. I'm not quite sure. I'm going to have to look that up for you.
Yeah.
Remember I
do remember that. I don't know.
It's like he's a nice guy and he's out there hustling, but for what you're getting paid to be a coordinator in the NFL, should you maybe have read that part of the 2020 rule book?
Yeah, there's a whole rule book there that you may just
want to dabble in.
Yeah, want to pay attention to a little
Yeah.
bit. Yeah.
So at that point, they elevated one of his assistants, as Mo Drayton, who when
that would have been my first
job,
question to Mo. Mo.
Yeah.
Hey, when a ball's about to go out of bounds and the guy's straddling
on an onside kick,
on an onside kick, what is that?
Yeah.
See if he can answer it.
I'm pretty sure Mo's got the answer for it.
Yeah.
But I asked him, special teams is such a tough job because, you're constantly getting third stringers and young guys, and maybe there's 6 or 7 of these plays a game, and there are people flying down the field. It's critical. You can flip a field by 40 or 50 yards, or even score,
right?
On a return kick, or give up a score. It's a tough job, and maybe you get 1 or 2 periods a day at the most to rehearse this stuff, and you can't really do it live in practice because of all the CBA limitations on how physical you can get. So nobody really knows if you can do this until you get in the game. And Mo Drayton said, you know what? I was a player in college, and the way I made a team was a special teams player. And that's where he became committed. I was a good special teams player. And that's why I decided to become a specialist in that part of the game, that it's such an important part of the game. And time and time again, man, nobody talks about it, but you see teams that win the conference, go to a Super Bowl, and you check out their special teams, and they're solid.
Yeah.
They get great field position.
They changed the field too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When the last time the Packers won the Super Bowl, when they had Jared Bush, I saw some old tape of him recently. He was great.
Yeah.
We always thought, Jared Bush is not good enough to be a defensive back. He's a gunner on special teams.
He was really solid.
He made really good plays.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really good plays.
Ty Summers, one of those guys. Orrin Burks has been playing special teams. Ty Summers kind of hanging on that way.
Yeah.
Because of special teams, because of his ability to get downfield.
And then the guy that they're talking about, first of all, there was that moment when they gave up another 50 or 60 yarder after they just scored on a kick return. And Alan Lazard went to Mo Drake and said, "This is enough.
Yeah, put me
in because I was a gunner for a couple of years. Now they got me on just offense. Put me in. I'll show these guys how to do it." And he volunteered for the next couple of returns in that game earlier this season. But the guy right now that's really impressed them is Equinemius St. Brown.
Yeah, he's another guy that's getting a lot of run and a lot of play.
Mo Drayton said he's even coaching up the younger players.
EQ is. Yeah. He has. He's kind of developed. He's matured. I think that's what Aaron Rodgers used with him and MVS. You talk about the maturity, both on and off the field.
It's hard to get Equinemius to open up. That's just it.
Yeah.
He's from the Jimmy Graham school of.
Not say a word.
I'm not. I don't have much to say.
Right.
Okay. I'm off to the side with my friends. He's got social media posts of family, very important to him, child, that kind of thing. But he does not want to be known for his quotes. So and as I said earlier in this show too, but even the head coach, made an offhanded comment to say, "Yeah, it was a big play. That's the most emotion he showed in the 2.5 years we've been here."
Right.
So even the coaches are like, this guy's a tough read.
Yeah.
But you keep going back to him and giving him that chance to get on the field, and he produces for you. And Rodgers says, that's another one of these guys. At some point, he sat down and said, look, you've got this talent, and you can help us out. And here's what I see your role for. Focus on those things, and I guarantee you, your number will get called this season.
I mean, there's been times, I remember he came back from injury. He was targeted once, hit him in the breadbasket. It was a rolling catch. He had to go to the ground, but it hit him, and he dropped it. Rodgers threw his hands in the air, kind of did one of those, oh, my God, never saw another target the rest of the game. Things have changed. Maybe that was the moment at which he went to him and said, hey, look.
While we're talking about this, about Aaron Rodgers, leadership, friendships, and, teammate-to-teammate conversations, I got to tell everybody, NFL Films, right? Steve Sable. You interviewed Steve, right?
Yep.
At Super Bowl, all right? The guy who, his father, he and his dad, Ed, were out there with the cameras in the 60s when the Giants were a big team, when Johnny Unitas and the Colts, they were there with their cameras freezing to capture those precious, that footage we've got of the Ice Bowl, right? NFL Films seems to have drifted away from the NFL Network. I've got the NFL Network. I put it on in the office in the background just to see what the breaking news are, the stories, the things they're talking about. And I even look forward in the evening just to see if they've got some features, because NFL Films gets, a certain kind of an access where they can sit down and talk to people. I've been too busy to really go through the guide. But in the last year or two, I've thought, what has happened to NFL Films? I don't see their stuff anywhere.
Right.
I don't see the slow-mo. I don't see the narration. And that built this league, right, with John Facenda and all that. Somebody posted yesterday, hey, James Campen, the longtime offensive line coach of the Packers, is going to be featured tonight on NFL Films on Fox Sports 1, FS1. Really? So I made a point to watch it. Last night, 9:30 on a Wednesday night, I go to FS1, and it's the old NFL Films this week. Yeah. It's a 30-minute show. Today's anchor, Steve passed away, a few years ago. It's an attractive blonde-haired woman. She says, tonight we've got two features, one on Emil Tunnel, who was a safety for the Giants back in the 50s with Gifford and those guys, and James Campen, longtime offensive line coach. So the story goes, Here's James Campen, and he starts out as a center for the Green Bay Packers, and he's snapping to Brett Favre. He was snapping to Favre on the day of that Bengals game, right?
Right.
And so he talks about the story talks about how James Campen is, this great player, but he's a football player. So he says he's got a lot of blue language, and he's putting on a bunch of pranks on each other.
Right.
Like the time that they got a snowblower and they covered up his car with snow so you couldn't find it.
Right.
In the parking lot.
Yeah.
These kinds of stories. They flew down to Hattiesburg and they talked to Favre, and they said, so tell us some of the things that James did. Well, he did this, he did that, and Favre for some reason wasn't given some of those stories. But he had a couple of pull my finger kinds of stories, right?
Right.
And then they talked to Kemp, and he says, "Well, did he tell you about the time we did this? Did he tell you about the time we did this? Or drinking, hunting, all that kind of stuff."
Yeah.
So then James Campen, then he gets this chance to be a coaching assistant, and then kept on with the team when Ted Thompson came. And now Campen starts tearing up because he got 20 years in Green Bay. He absolutely loves Green Bay. They show him. Now he's with the Texans. He spent some time with the Browns. LaFleur came in and he had to get in his own guys.
Yeah.
And this Adam Stenovich has done a tremendous job.
Him and Buckus have been fantastic.
Adam was one of James Campen's players. Because Stenovich played for the Packers for a year or two, right? So it's this great, and you know who narrates the entire thing? Aaron Rodgers.
Really?
The entire 15 minutes is Aaron Rodgers talking about, did you know James Campen has this Miracle Mile walk? What does that mean, Aaron? This is why we love James Campen. When we're on the road, he will leave the team hotel after dinner. He'll go out for a walk. Let's say in Detroit. He'll walk for a mile, and he'll take $1,000 in cash and hand it out to the homeless people to help them, to make a difference. And then you try and ask James Campen about it. Oh, I don't want to talk about that.
Yeah.
The being humble and all those kinds of things.
Right.
It's like, I can't believe that this isn't talked about more, and that NFL Films is telling those stories on the NFL Network. It'd be like PBS saying, "Yeah, we don't want Ken Burns anymore." I don't know what's going on there, and I'll check that.
I think the NFL wants its own. They were never. I know the NFL bought NFL Films, but I don't know if they went into a joint broadcast partnership with Fox.
I used to know some guys that shot for them.
Yeah.
And all that, but those are years removed. I know that NFL Films is located in New Jersey.
New Jersey, yeah.
And there's got to be some sort of relationship there. All I just know is that these days I just see Good Morning Football and people doing skits and things like that, and then the replay of the games.
It's now a morning show.
And I've also think that I've seen a lot of changes. The anchors in just the last month on that channel as well. I don't know if that's permanent. They just built a brand new facility across the way from SoFi Stadium out in LA.
Yeah.
But anyway, my point is, try and find this NFL Films feature on James Campen as narrated by Aaron Rodgers, and some of the best mic'd up inside stories of the Packers from the last 10 years you'll ever see. Outstanding.
Let's do this. We're going to go ahead and start taking a look around the rest of the NFL when we come back. Plus the game tonight. The Steelers on the road. They're in U.S. Bank Stadium. They just got underway, taking on the Minnesota Vikings. Stay tuned. A lot more. The Bill Michaels Huddle brought to you by Bud Light coming up right after this.
This is the Huddle with Bill Michaels on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 5 minutes. Michaels will resume in 4 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Beating Aaron Rodgers more personal for you than maybe it's ever been?
Yeah, you say that and it's real. It's not my thing. It's not. This is about our team and this is about us beating them. It's plain and simple. It has nothing to do with me versus Aaron Rodgers. There's a lot of other coaches that want to beat him and do their best. But this one is about we have not been good enough against this team in the 3.5 years that I've been here. Those are the words of Matt Nagy, Bears head coach, who most likely is on his way out the door at the end of the season. It's a good deflection, I think, because no, it's not about me. So therefore, when they lose, it's not about him either. But he says, don't worry about it. It's not about me. It's about the guys. We got to be better, But oh, by the way, when you take the loss, you have not been able to beat them consistently.
He's
either.
1 for 6
Yeah.
against Rodgers.
He's not good.
Rodgers is 22-5 against the Bears, and after Sunday night, that'll be 23-5.
I would assume. I'm going into it with a lot of confidence. Not 100%, but a lot of confidence. We now take a look around the rest of the NFL. You got a game underway. The Steelers are on the road 6-5-1. The Steelers are trying to hang on to the possibility of a space in the postseason. Right now, they've got the Chargers, the Bengals, and the Bills ahead of them. They're a game behind the Buffalo Bills, who lost on Monday Night Football. They're trying to remain in the hunt. Meanwhile, the Vikings, who are sitting right now at 5-7, and they are a game on the outside looking in. They are behind right now the Rams, Washington Football Team, and San Francisco 49ers, and actually, in addition to that, the Philadelphia Eagles as well. I think tonight I'm going to go with the Steelers to get the win. The Steelers absolutely have to have a win. They got a big win against the Baltimore Ravens. They feel like things are trending in the right direction, and maybe it's the hope in me. But if the Vikings lose and the Packers win, the Packers will clinch the division and the postseason for sure on Sunday Night Football. So I'm going with the Steelers in this.
They're at U.S. Bank, and Chase Claypool's out there. Najee Harris is back there running back. That helps out Big Ben a lot. But, the Vikings have got some of their guys back at linebacker. And, Zimmer does this great stuff with that A-gap blitz where he makes the center turn, okay? If you send two guys on the center's he's got to make a decision. Do I go left? Do I go right? And that's what is so tough for these guys to figure out. And, as for the quarterback, it's the shortest distance. The pressure's coming right up the middle, and it's coming in a hurry. And then you got Harrison Smith, who will line up right on the line, and somehow he times it to the quarterback's cadence, and then he'll drop back. So suddenly now he's back as a safety. He can shoot back 20 yards and knock down a pass when you call a play at the line where you're trying to, flood the field, the middle of the field. The point of all this discussion is, I think the biggest problem that I've seen with the Vikings is not only that rash of injuries they had a linebacker the last couple of weeks, but offensive line. They lost their left tackle. They've got guards playing left tackle.
Right.
And then Delvin Cook with the shoulder dislocation about 11 days ago went down hard on his left elbow that popped that out. Mike Zimmer's had a tough time getting this thing going because of the injuries this year, as well as Kirk Cousins has played. Who's going to win? You know what? I'm going to take the Vikings at home. I'm going to take the Vikings
Got
at
the
home.
Vikings at
this
home.
thing out. Yeah.
The Falcons sitting at 5-7, trying to make something out of their season. The Panthers also sitting at 5-7. The Falcons have I can't figure them out other than the fact that they're just bad. Them and the Carolina Panthers, both the same record. Between them, they've lost 3 straight. Just for the fact that the Panthers are at home, I'll take the Panthers in this one just because. Even though I feel like maybe the Falcons get a win, but every time I pick them, they lose.
I think Arthur Smith is a better coach. I'll take the Falcons.
Okay.
Although I just saw them play the Patriots about 2 weeks ago. Yeah. They were just horrible.
They were horrible. They look like they've packed it in. The Ravens coming off of that loss to the Pittsburgh Steelers. They are sitting at 8-4. The Browns, who are now in almost a free fall, sitting at 6-6 on the season. That game on Christmas Day was looking like a big game with the
against
Packers.
Cleveland.
Yeah, the Packers and Cleveland Browns.
And it's a Saturday game.
Yeah,
too, right. Yeah.
And now it's kind of fallen off. Cleveland over there, they just lost. They're 2-3 in the last 5. I just don't have a lot of faith in
and
that.
They keep playing those Baker Mayfield commercials where he's living at the
Right.
stadium.
Right. Yeah, no, I'm going with the Baltimore Ravens. Ravens are going to get the win in that contest.
You'd think you could afford a home in Cleveland.
Right?
I'm taking the Ravens. I think they're the more talented team at this point. I think John Harbaugh is a better coach.
Seahawks eke out a win this past weekend against San Francisco. They're on the road down in Houston, taking on the Texans. Texans only 2 wins on the season. Their linebacker, did you see this? Their $56 million linebacker, who they just gave a contract to, they cut him today.
I cut him.
He just didn't show for his COVID test, so they said, we're tired of your crap. Out of here. Get out.
I cut him.
They let him go. Yeah. So I'm going to take the Seahawks on the road.
Whitney Merciless and Randall Cobb both referred to Houston as a prison. Russell Wilson said today, I'm playing for 20 years for Seattle. I'm not going to Pittsburgh.
Right.
I'm not going to New Orleans. I'm going to finish with Seattle. I'll take Seattle.
You got the Raiders and the Chiefs. This is going to be a good one. The Raiders are just trying to hang on at this point. Kansas City, they have won 5 straight as of right now. And you got, Patrick Mahomes playing much, much better football. I don't have much belief at all. The Raiders are 1-4 in their last 5. I am taking the Chiefs at home.
The Raiders have had some interesting wins this year, but I'll take the Chiefs at Arrowhead.
Then you got the Saints and the Jets. A giant yawn is in the making. The Saints just not that good of a football team, to be perfectly honest with you.
And guess what? Taysom Hill is not a quarterback.
No, he's not. And by the way,
I know all that stuff I said about him out of Green Bay, but Mike McCarthy and Ted Thompson, shame on them. They could have made him a special teams player.
Yeah.
And a third string quarterback like Sean Payton did. And that's just one more demerit that was against McCarthy on his way out. The Jets, no, I'll take the Saints.
The Saints to break
the
Saints have lost 5 straight. I'll take the Saints to break the losing streak.
Okay.
In this one.
I think they'll have Kamara back for that one.
Yes, that was announced today. He's practicing and should be back. The Jaguars on the road. The Titans sitting at 8-4. The Jaguars at 2-10. I am going to be shocked if Urban Meyer coaches his second season for the Jacksonville Jaguars. I'm going to take the Titans or at home, I should say, against the Jaguars on the road. The Titans go to 9-4.
I'll take the Titans too. I haven't actually seen a Jaguars game in about a month or so, so I don't know if they made any improvement or formed anything, for Urban Meyer for next year.
No, not really. I think Urban Meyer was kind of waving his hand a little bit when the Notre Dame job came open, and then he had to man up and go, "I promised I wouldn't leave." And I'm sure he's kicking a cat when he got home.
Just so long as he made the team play home, that's all.
Right. Well, maybe he brought home some hand candy, like a puppet.
He may spend the night in Nashville.
You got the Cowboys. Mike McCarthy guaranteeing the Cowboys are going to win.
Did he?
Yeah, he came out and said, "We're going to win the game. Mark my word, we're going to win the game."
Man, the Washington football team is one of the most fun teams to watch in the last 6 weeks.
Washington has won 4 straight. They've climbed back to 6-6. They're dead even. As of right now, they're in the postseason. And they're somewhat breathing down the neck of the Dallas Cowboys, who are only 2 games ahead of them.
Didn't I hear that Montez Sweat, just got back from an injury, and then he comes back in, he tests positive for COVID?
I think I read that. I don't know if it's positive, but yeah, I think I read that too. Yeah.
So, so they don't get him back in the
No, I saw that on the NFL Network, on the crawl today.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So, but in the meantime, you got Heineke there at the quarterback, and he makes things happen, the Cowboys. Gosh, I don't know.
It's on the road in Washington.
That's going to be a good one. What time is that game? 1
that
o'clock?
That is a noon kickoff.
Wow.
Central time.
I'll take Dallas. I'm
taking Washington.
Are you?
Yep. There's just something about it. I know. Look,
even all that talent that the Cowboys
they're
still
getting
have.
Zeke back. Zeke says he feels better, that he is healing. Mike McCarthy's back from the COVID, protocol. But Mike getting verbose. We're going to win the game. Dak getting the nod as the Walter Payton nominee, and everything seems to be rosy down there.
Sure.
That's when they get bit. And Riverboat Ron, in the meantime, just keeps on winning. So I'm going to take Washington at home. Now, they play Washington twice in the next 3 weeks. This week, then I don't know who they have next week, and then they have.
And they get them at
I think it's Philadelphia. Then they get them again at AT&T Stadium. I'm taking Washington to win this one. Let's do this. We're going to step away, come back. We've got some more games on the docket. As a matter of fact, 6 more games on the docket, including the Packers and the Bears coming up on Sunday night. Stay tuned. Final segment of the Bill Michaels Huddle, brought to you by Bud Light, coming up next.
This is the Huddle with Bill Michaels on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes.
Oh, now lift. Okay, go ahead.
Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Take care of us. We practice right. Like we go at it. Like when it's time to practice, we practice. You know what I'm saying? And when it's time to make sure our body right, we make sure our body right. And when it's time for film, it's film. So like everything is detailed and scheduled.
Those are the words of Rasul Douglas of the Green Bay Packers, and the Packers set to take on the Chicago Bears coming up on Sunday night. We'll get back into that coming up here momentarily. But as we continue to take our look around the rest of the NFL, hey, the Lions are off the schneid. How about that? 1-10-1 after knocking off the Minnesota Vikings. By the way, the Vikings just scored. So
the Lions were up by 2 or 3 scores over the Vikings. And then Jared Goff throws a pick.
Right.
And then another one of these deflected passes like I was talking about, throws another one of those. I mean, he's handing the ball to Kirk Cousins.
Yeah.
Cousins takes them in. They go up in the game. And there's Jared Goff down by 4 with a minute. And you think,
done.
I mean, the scores that they made, I think it was like 20-6, just by attrition, and lucky bounces and all that. But son of a gun, he drove down the field. It was a horrible looking 2-minute offense.
It was bad. I agree with
the
you.
way he kept on throwing balls over the middle is like, you don't have time for this.
Right.
Where's the sideline shot?
Yeah. And at the one point they huddled.
Yeah.
And they're screaming, "What are you doing?"
Yeah. But he gets down to the 12-yard line, man, with 4 seconds left, and he throws it to Equanimeous St. Brown's little brother.
Yeah.
Over there on the left-hand side, touchdown, and they walk off with a win.
Did you hear Paul Allen's call of that?
I did.
It is the most monotone, I'm pissed off, I want to throw up call I've ever.
I heard it on your show.
Yeah.
And he called them the cardiac kitties.
Yeah, the cardiac kitties.
Have beat the Vikings.
Yep. Yeah. The Vikings have just lost this game. Yeah. It sounded like he was trying to talk after zipping up too fast in the bathroom.
Well, and no doubt.
I'm stuck.
When the Minnesota media is saying, all right, Mike Zimmer is definitely on the hot seat.
Yeah.
It's when you lose to the Lions who haven't beaten anybody all year long, and that's the team that you lose to.
Yeah.
And this, the situation the Vikings are in, you can see then you think the coach let that game slip away.
I'm taking the Lions in this game on the road against the Broncos.
Really?
Yeah. They've played games close all season long. They finally won a close one.
Yeah.
They've gotten blown out of a couple, but they played good football early.
And Jamal looks good, doesn't he? Jamal Williams?
Yep.
I don't see that. I think the Broncos are going to win at home.
Okay, we'll see what happens. Last week I think I only missed one game.
Really?
Yeah, in all the upsets I chose.
Right.
All of them. So we'll see what happens this week.
Online sports betting legal in Wisconsin now, so you can spend all the money you want.
Heading up to Oneida. You got the Giants on the road taking on the Chargers. Chargers 7-5. Giants are 4-8. I'm taking the Chargers. Chargers impressed me going into Cincinnati and getting the win. I knew that the Bengals can't handle success. They suck on ice, but I'm going to take the Chargers in this one. I just don't think the Giants are that good.
Well, they're horrible.
Yeah,
they're horrible. They're trying to get Mike Glennon to start this week. No, they're horrible at quarterback. Yeah,
you're scraping sludge in a barrel.
No, I'll take the Chargers at home.
Speaking of Cincinnati, they're at home again. Paul Brown Stadium sitting at 6-6, or they're 7-5, but you've got the 49ers at 6-6 coming to town. Bengals lost last week. 2 weeks ago, they beat the hell out of the Steelers. They will win this week at home. They'll learn a little bit from their own lesson.
Against the 49ers?
Against the 49ers, yeah.
What, you see Garoppolo goof up that play there at the end?
Garoppolo's goofed up quite a bit as of late.
Yeah. Joe Burrow, is that pinky finger doing okay?
No. But I'll take a gutting it out Joe Burrow with the running ability, because Mixon fumbled in that game and Burrow turned the ball over.
You know something?
They don't turn the ball over, they win that game.
I think the 49ers are going to go out there and be too physical for the Bengals. I will take the 49ers on the road.
By the way, it's going to be 55 degrees in
helps,
Cincinnati.
That helps the kids from Santa Clara.
The Buccaneers, a big game everybody's talking about. There's the 3 games that are left. Everybody's talking. Buccaneers are hosting the Bills. The Bills coming off of that ugly performance against the Patriots on Monday night. They ended up getting beats up in Buffalo. Now they got to go face Tom Brady and the Buccaneers, who have their own issue with Antonio Brown. He's been suspended, all that kind of goofiness. But the Buccaneers seem like they are now starting to trend in the right direction. I'm taking the Buccaneers at home to get the win.
Yeah, I take the Buccaneers at home over that one, too. And then it's just amazing how everyone thought the Bills were going to be the best team in the AFC. If they lose Tampa, they would fall 6.
Yeah. They right now are barely holding on behind the Chargers, the Bengals, and then it's the Bills. They are 2-3 in their last 5 games as well.
And you know what? If you're the Arizona Cardinals, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, or the Green Bay Packers, you're saying, oh, man.
Right.
Oh, man. It's just there for the taking.
Right. Yep.
To go to the Super Bowl in Los Angeles and have to play one of those AFC teams?
Right.
No problem.
Yep. Nobody is running away with the AFC that's impressing you right now, except for no rookie quarterbacks ever won a Super Bowl, but the Patriots are trending the best.
Yes, the Patriots.
Out of all of them. The Patriots have won now, 7 straight, I think, is what the Patriots have won? Wow. 7 straight wins. Since starting off the season 2-4, they're now 9-4. Amazing. Then a Monday night game, a really good Monday night game. You got the 8-4 Rams on the road taking on the 10-2 Cardinals. Rams lose this game, their hopes of winning the division is over. The Cardinals, they're trying to stay ahead of the Green Bay Packers, who the Packers look to have a relatively easy opponent coming up on Sunday night, or at least that's the perception. I am going to take a desperate Rams team on the road in Arizona.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm taking the Cardinals because I think they got out of Chicago pretty healthy.
Yeah.
And they get the one extra day, and they're playing at home. And don't underestimate the atmosphere at the Cardinals stadium, too. It gets really loud.
It's going to be rocking in there. There's no doubt. I'm just going to say this is the make or break game. This is the reason you brought in Matthew Stafford.
Yes.
And if Matthew Stafford doesn't shine and OBJ doesn't begin to emerge,
Von
Miller,
those guys.
all that, we'll see what Von Miller and Aaron Donald do against the young guy in Kyler.
Well, I'm a big fan of Sean McVay. I just think the Cardinals can hold their own. I think
they can. I just think that,
but they don't need the game.
They don't need it. They're just trying to stay ahead of the Packers. The Rams are desperate. If they're going to win the division, they got to win this game, because there's only 2 games the Cardinals can possibly lose. This one, and going into AT&T Stadium to play the Cowboys. Otherwise, they should have an easy
Bill,
walk.
we're running late. We're not going to be able to break down that critical Bears-Packers game. Are you saying that we need another 15 minutes to break down Sunday night's game between the Packers and the Bears?
No. I own you. So, Packers are hosting the Chicago Bears coming up on Sunday night.
How bad will it be if Green Bay loses to the Bears Sunday night?
It will be ugly because you will have 2 losses in the division. You will have lost to Minnesota.
Matt LaFleur will be 0 for 3 coming out of a bye.
Right.
But I mean, it will be a major earthquake.
It would be a gut punch,
Cataclysm.
depending on how you lose it. But yeah, if you just lose the game just because,
the ball will bounce funny.
Yeah.
If Green Bay special team screws up.
Oh my God! If it comes down to a last-second field goal,
David
and they
Montgomery
miss it.
runs it in for a touchdown. Now
Yeah.
he's up by one. Then they get it. And even though the Bears kicker right now is illness on the injury report, whatever. But a couple of field goals here, a couple of special teams plays, a return or something like that. A couple of holding calls could kill your drive, that type of thing. The Bears could be in it, but to me, no. I mean, it's Matt Nagy against LaFleur. I think LaFleur wins.
Packers should win this game, and I think they will. And I think LaFleur finally gets his win coming out of a bye week. Don't forget the Green and Gold postgame show immediately following the Packers and the Bears coming up on Sunday night for Sunday Night Football. And that'll do it. Thanks to everybody, staff and management, Gus and his great people out here at Jersey's on South Howell Avenue in Milwaukee. Mike, appreciate it as always, buddy.
You bet, Bill.
There you go. And thanks to our buddy Evo pushing all the right buttons back in our main studio, our flagship station, WOZN, out in Madison. So it's time for us to go. Until we talk again, have a good one.